Hello and welcome to the Online Course Creator Show. I'm your host, Lou Blakely. It's so good to have you here. Whether this is your first episode or you've been listening for a while, I really appreciate you for tuning in, and hopefully this episode can help you when it comes to launching your online course, group coaching program, membership, whatever it is that you have and you're planning on getting out there. This is episode 83, and today I'm talking about 3 ways to get more sales from your webinar. So, running a webinar as part of your launch, let me rephrase that. Running a free launch event as part of your launch is absolutely vital, and the 2 main ways that I recommend to do that are either a webinar, which is like a 1-hour class that you invite people to. People show up live, you deliver it live, and then you sell at the end of that webinar. Or a free challenge where somebody signs up for a challenge and you take them over a series of activities over a particular period of time, usually 3 to 5 days. So those are the 2 that I recommend, but I really see a lot of people tending more towards the webinar side of things. Usually because they are easier to put together, they're easier to run in terms of they're actually quicker, whereas with a challenge, you've actually got to show up for 3 to 5 days, whereas with a webinar, sometimes you may do more than one webinar, but you're showing up for an hour and then the cart's open because you open the doors to your program while the webinar is happening live, and then you move into selling mode a lot quicker. I find that most of the people I work with do tend to go down the webinar road. So I have helped a ton of people when it comes to webinars, and I have to say this is probably where we spend a huge portion, like the most time, is actually planning the webinar, making sure it actually delivers on what we want in terms of results. And I wanted to share some of this, or my biggest learnings, what I've seen work for clients, with you, because I see a lot of people getting this wrong. And I also see a lot of chat out there about how no one wants to go to webinars anymore, that kind of thing, which is absolutely not true. Like, they still work amazingly well. And usually those people who are saying it doesn't work anymore have either A, given up on launching, or B, are selling something instead of a webinar, right? And a big issue that if people are in that first boat where they feel like they've tried a webinar and it didn't work for them, or they don't want to go to webinars anymore, like maybe they've been to some that have felt like a waste of time, so therefore they say that they don't work. I would say if they have launched something themselves, then they actually went about the webinar in a way that wasn't strategic and actually made some mistakes that meant that they didn't work. So you can run a webinar that doesn't work 100%. There is a very high chance maybe you've already tried to run one and it didn't convert. A lot of webinars don't convert, and there is actually a bit of a special sauce when it comes to webinars. You absolutely have to go at them the right way. And today I'm just going to share 3 quick ways that you can actually get your webinars to work. I actually want you to be able to run a webinar in a way that means that people are buying on the call, like live, like you can see purchases coming through before the webinar's even finished. That is the ideal situation. I have had that happen with many of my clients who have had that happen their very first webinar they've ever run, which is amazing. And that is what we are really striving for. It doesn't happen for everyone, right? But we want to make sure that our webinar is set up to actually create purchases, because that's what our launch is, and we're running a business here, and we're not just putting on a webinar for fun, even though they can be great fun, but we're actually doing it because we want to grow our businesses, we want to help more people, we want to get our work out there, and this is a really, really fantastic way to do that. So the 3 things, these may surprise you. The first one is don't overteach in your webinar. I've had a lot of people come to me saying, I've launched before, I've done this, that, and the next thing. I did this webinar or this masterclass, free training, whatever you want to call it. And people loved it. They were raving about it. The comments were amazing, but I didn't really get many sales. And this is what I was talking about before. If you go into a webinar thinking that you're just going to teach like you would inside a paid program, and let's be real, we're all conditioned to do this or to think that this is the way we give people what they want and then they're going to buy from us. And this has actually been taught a lot in digital marketing as well. It's this idea that you give them everything you know and in exchange they're going to pay you. It's absolutely not as simple as that. And if that is your one strategy, it's not going to work. So my rule of thumb is if people leave your webinar, masterclass, free training, whatever you call it, with a to-do list or homework to action, so maybe you taught them a strategy or even tactics on your webinar, and they are then able to go and take that and implement it, and they're going to want to take that action before they feel like they need your course, then you've absolutely lost a lot of sales and also the chance to help that person properly. And the reason I say that is because you're on a call for 45 to 60 minutes. That's not enough time to be able to give people the actual true guidance that they need. You might just be giving them snippets. But how they feel is they now feel equipped to go away and tackle it on their own. And quite often what happens is they'll go and give it a shot and they won't succeed. They'll give up because they don't have the right support. They don't have the full picture, whatever. But coming back to what I was saying about them thinking that they have to action that before they buy your course, what often happens there is you then give them a list of things to do and they feel that like they've actually got to complete that before they allow themselves to make a purchase. When really you need to use the webinar to actually create the gap in their minds that your product fits into. And I know this can take a little bit to get your head around. It is absolutely a big thing when it comes to the work that I do. I was on a coaching call earlier today with my Action Takers group and we were talking about this in depth. It comes up over and over again. It's not as simple as just showing up and teaching for an hour. And if you do that, yes, you're going to have raving fans, but the chance that they're buying from you is a lot lower. We actually want to craft our webinar strategically in a way that moves someone from interested in your topic to knowing that your online course is the right solution for them. And this is what I will teach you to do in any of my programs. So there is an art and a science to putting together a webinar presentation that actually converts. So general rule of thumb, if people leave your training with a to-do list or homework to action, then you have overtaught and you need to change your strategy. Now, the second thing that I have seen really creates more sales is to have a fast action bonus on the actual webinar itself. So when you're live, when you move into selling mode at the end of your webinar, then introduce a fast action bonus, which gives people a real incentive to buy now, depending on what your frame is for this. Like in terms of time frame, it could be that they have to buy before the webinar finishes. It could be that they have to buy within or that day, or it could be that they have to buy within 24 hours. It's up to you. Like, you get to decide what the time frame is, and they all work really well. But a fast action bonus is really effective at getting people to make that quick decision. It gives people the incentive to be a fast decision maker, to take action really quickly, to decide that they're in. Because quite often people will hear about your offer and they're in, and then they'll go away and think about it, and a week later it's distant memory. Whereas if you give them an incentive to actually buy now, it can really boost your sales. It can get people through the door. It can also give you that confidence as the person running the launch that you've got those quick sales at the start and you're not waiting to the end to get those people off the fence. Now, with your fast action bonus, it has to be something that is juicy, that is enticing, that people actually really want in order to be effective. I definitely recommend that if you are looking at running a webinar, that you add in a fast action bonus. Now, number 3, in terms of a way to get more sales from your webinars, is to make a decision that you are crafting this webinar to speak to your buyers. Now, what I mean by that is that in your audience, your following that you already have or that you're building, there is going to be a portion of your audience who are buyers. They are people that will buy things. They purchase things. They are people that like to invest. They understand the payoff for investing in whatever it is that they want. They are interested in upskilling, learning, all of that kind of stuff. You also have a portion of your audience, and everyone does, that are non-buyers. They are never going to buy from you. They are quite often those people that we get in our audiences that you may see people mentioning all the time. They're like freebie seekers, where they will take all of the free stuff, download all the free guides, do all of the free things, but they never have any intention to invest, and they're maybe not going to stay there forever. But right now, they're the type of people who are going to be very, very hard to convince that they should buy your offer. They are also often the type of people who will turn up to free launch events and complain if you don't give them all of your golden nuggets that are actually inside of your paid programs. These people are the ones who will complain, they'll want more from you, and they will moan that they don't get it and make out like, you should be giving everything to them for free. And I think what often happens is that when we're creating our content, what I see happen is that there's this fear that these people are going to be vocal, that they're going to be disappointed somehow. So let's just give them everything that they want, and then I won't hear one complaint from those people. But the problem with this is that then we create the webinar for people who are not our ideal client. They're not the type of people we want to work with anyway. They're not the type of people who are even going to buy from us, but we've just created the whole training to suit that person because we don't want complaints. We don't want them to be upset. We don't want them to be vocal about it, right? And in that process of actually catering our content to that person, we then fail to speak to the person that our ideal client actually is, that higher level person that has more of an understanding of what it's going to take to get to where they need to go, the person that is willing to invest in you. So while trying to appeal to the freebie seekers, you actually don't get a chance to really hone in your messaging to the type of person you really want to work with. So make sure that when you're putting your webinar together that you are actually creating it for your ideal dream customer, not the type of person that frustrates you or you don't really want to work with anyway. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with people coming to your event that have no intention to buy from you. And we all have a huge part of our audience are actually never going to buy from us. So we all have these people in our audience. There's nothing wrong with them, but just make sure that you are crafting your messaging and your webinar content to that person that you actually really want to work with, that understands how you can help them, and that you know that you can help in a really solid way. So those are my 3 ways to get more sales from your webinar. So first, don't overteach. Second is to add a fast action bonus. And third is to speak to the buyers. Now I'm actually going to give you a bonus 4th tip. And this is something that really speaks to where we're at right now. We're in 2024. This online world is no longer new. Our online audiences are a little bit more skeptical. They are more educated. They are not silly people, right? So when it comes to creating your webinar content topic, I want you to pick something that is really relevant right now. Not something that may have done really well 2 to 3 years ago, like during the pandemic when everyone was online, I think the messaging was a lot different to what it is right now in 2024. So I want you, when you're deciding what topic you're going to speak on, what your webinar title is going to be and all of that kind of stuff, I really want you to look at what is happening in your market right now, what is happening in your niche, what issues do people have, what problems are people facing right now, not 5 years ago, right now, and see how you can bring that in to your topic idea, because it is going to speak to and attract a lot more people. And really, the webinar free launch event is the place where you want to attract as many people as possible. So having that really specific and timely topic that people really are interested in right now, and ideally specifically around a problem that people need to overcome right now, the more signups you're going to get, which is absolutely key. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are going into a launch and you've got a webinar planned, I hope you took something out of this. And, if you're not planning a launch, then I think it's time that you should look at when your first or next launch is going to be. So thank you so much for listening today. I wanted to remind you that Moneymakers, I am dropping an insane offer to Moneymakers next week, early next week. I really want you to see it. I'm only going to be sharing about it to the waitlist, and you need to get on there. So inside Moneymakers, which is my step-by-step launching system where I teach you how to create and execute your own launching strategy that you can repeat over and over and over again to really grow your online course business. Inside that program, I teach you in depth this whole webinar creation process. It is one of the main parts of the program, and it's really going to enable you to show up and deliver webinars that actually get the results that you're looking for, rather than spending all of your time delivering webinars where people might love them, but you don't make sales, or maybe people don't turn up, all of that kind of stuff. So I teach you step by step how to create a webinar that converts. To see that offer, you must be on the waitlist. So go and join the waitlist. Now, this is actually your last chance, the last time I will be inviting you to this waitlist for this particular offer, this one-time offer that's coming up. So you can sign up for that waitlist at loublakely.com/waitlist, and that will be coming out very early next week. So keep your eyes tuned. I'd love to see you on there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.